Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the 2U's of 2U's Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at 2usfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our 2U's Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Marsha.
Well, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I just want to let everybody know we had a loss in our family. Nash, our yellow Labrador that we rescued, he came to live with us about 4 years ago, and he was 11 when he came, and he just died. We had to have him put down, so that's sad. I mean, he was doing pretty well right up to the end, so that was good, and it was a pretty fast decline. But he had, I think, probably kidney failure, since he had a problem with his kidneys. So it's been sad.
Well, we talked about this a couple days ago, but I said I have a special place in my heart for all of your dogs, and Nash, his special place in my heart was. He was so ugly for a lab.
Yes.
And we loved him, but you and Robert loved him, but he was not by lab standards a beautiful lab. We've talked about this in the podcast before, so I'm not saying anything rude or offensive, but he had kind of pink lips, and they should have dark black pigmentation.
He had liver pigment,
and his tail was like a sail sticking straight up in the air. But he was such a sweet boy. Very, very sweet dog. And a man's dog, though. He was,
definitely a man's dog.
And he tolerated kisses on the head from you.
Barely, but he tolerated. Yeah. He did not like all of that stuff. He liked to be touched and petted and stuff. He liked affection, but he was not a kissing dog.
No.
Not at all. He did not want anything to do with kissing. He didn't kiss you. He didn't want you to kiss him.
And he just had a real connection with Robert. He really he tolerated you.
Yeah.
He liked you, but he was Robert's dog.
He had been a man's dog his whole life. And then his owner died, and that's how we came to have him.
Yeah.
And he really did. He wanted to be with his man. I would say that to Robert. He wants to be with his man, because he'd follow Robert around and then lay down beside him. And And when he'd get up in the morning, we'd get up and I'd feed him, and then he'd run back upstairs and lay on the bed next to lay on his dog pillow next to the bed on the side where Robert was. Go back to bed after breakfast.
Yeah. Well, that's how Enzo is. He goes back to bed after breakfast. But we have them such a short time.
Yeah, and him
especially short time.
And especially short. Yeah.
He came to you late in life.
Yeah.
But,
so
anyway, but should we talk about? Before we get into projects.
Well, why don't you talk a little bit about your big project? And then I have some home projects, too, that I'll mention.
Yes, we'll talk projects, non-knitting projects. So I've been posting on Instagram, and I've talked about it, but my deck is still not quite done. I will say, I think since we last recorded all the decking, that's not even true.
So what is true, Marsha?
Yes, really. Let me just calm down here and gather my thoughts here. So most of the decking is done. The shape of the deck is kind of a rectangle that comes off the back of the house, and then at the end of it, there's sort of a triangular shape that sort of sticks into the flower beds, kind of. It hangs out over the flower bed, kind of. And so all the rectangular part is done, but we have Ben was helping with the deck, and he left the 21st of August was his last day working on the deck because he and his girlfriend have gone off on a road trip for about a month. He texted me this morning, and they're actually in Wyoming right now.
Oh, wow.
So he didn't finish that part. And I'm just going to wait till he comes back because he is so, he's a perfectionist. And because all those boards on that section have to be cut on an angle, I'd rather have Ben do that than have Mark and I do that because we're wood butchers. So
well, and then also you'd have to listen to him then for the rest of your life. Every time you went out on the deck and he saw
yes, for sure.
Having lived with Robert as long as we've been married, I know that that's the case.
Yeah, for sure. I'd have to listen to that. So I don't.
Perfectionism is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, and the stairs on the north side are done. The stairs on the going down to the patio, all of the framing is in, but we have not put the decking on yet because we had to put all the lighting in. So there's lights on the risers for safety to illuminate the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
I hired an electrician to pull power from the house and bring it out through a hole that we had drilled through the concrete for a box, a plug out there. Then install the transformer that powers the low voltage lighting in the decking. So all that's done. All of the lighting's on the decking, and then there's lights that go through the garden, and we finished that today. So tomorrow we're going to start the decking the treads on decking on the stairs and finish the stairs. That's the plan because we don't have to make any diagonal cuts. So I'm going to wait for Ben for the diagonal cuts on that because we can use the deck without that little corner bit. So we're making progress. It's taking. I'm surprised how much time it's taking, and I thought, we're just gonna throw that deck up, but it's an amazing amount of work, and Mark's been incredible. He's been up here every day.
Well, and the plans became more elaborate too as you you went along, but in your planning process, your original thoughts about what you were going to do versus what you ended up doing is a little different.
We knew the shape we wanted, and we knew we wanted lighting, but it took us time to find the lighting, research the lighting, figure out how to install the lighting, how to build the structure underneath the deck. And we haven't done it. This is not what we do for a living. We have the ideas. We have the ideas, but we don't necessarily have the skill. And so it really, so Mark and I were out there working until Ben showed up when school was out in end of June is then when he showed up. But he also had breaks in there too, for climbing, and he went on a backpacking trip with his dad. And then we were last week, because last week we went down to Seabrook on the Washington coast for a week. So we had some breaks in there too. But it's coming along, and at least I can sit on it. So I was a little worried that it would be done when I was dead, and I would never be able to sit on it. I'm able to sit on it, so.
Well, that's good.
So it's coming along, yeah. So I've been putting pictures on Instagram, and I've also been I created a project page in Ravelry, so I'll update today. I'll go in and put in more pictures in there of the lights and whatnot,
link to it in the show notes.
What I've discovered about home improvement projects is it doesn't just stop at one thing. So now the deck is in, but that's making the rest of the garden back there look kind of shabby, and it's very overgrown. And I think it had originally been it was my mother's garden originally, and she actually hired a designer to put in all of the plants, but that's now, it could be 40 years ago, 30 years ago, at least 20 years ago, and things, they have a life, or they get too big sometimes for the space, And the way the garden was intentionally meant to be used, we really can't use it that way anymore because the plants have gotten so large. So I'm out there thinking about what needs to be done. And I think, honestly, it all just needs to be taken out and needs to start all over again.
Can you, with some plants, I know with some of the native plants, you can just cut them all the way back and then they just come back.
Yeah.
Like coppice, I think is what it's called. I forget the actual terminology for it, but you can really severely, some things don't take well to that, but there are some plants that you can really severely prune, and then it's kind of like replanting something new, but you don't have to wait for the root system to establish itself.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, I think they call that project creep. So, and then because we've been using the south garden a lot, and so now I had brought all of the furniture, the patio furniture, over to the side yard while we were working on the deck, and now I brought it back to the deck. But this is not about the deck now. This is just an interesting thing. I discovered I have a baby bunny in the backyard. So
oh my gosh!
So, and I don't know what to do, Kelly. And so I'll tell you what happened. I came back from the beach last Saturday and took Enzo out there to air, and there was an adult rabbit in the side garden who ran around in circles a couple of times and then went over the bank. I mean, I don't know if that rabbit's been back or not. And then he was really fascinated by a spot in the flower bed, and he started pawing at it, and then it's the leaves and the dirt started moving, and he pawed at it again, and there was a little squeal. And so at my first thought it was a mole, and then I went back out there to look, and I saw the little bunny's head. It was a little tiny baby. And so in Seattle it's just started the last couple of years. We're kind of overrun with rabbits now. It's very common to see these little brown rabbits everywhere. And I often thought, I wonder where they make their nests. Well, now I know they dig. Well, and it makes sense. Did you ever read Watership Down? Did you ever read Peter Rabbit? They live in a rabbit warren, right? So it's underground. And so they must tunnel underground. And so there's that baby out there. So I have not seen the mother. And I'm not letting, I bring Enzo over there to air, but I keep him on a leash because I don't want him, there's a whole bunch of reasons why I don't want him getting the rabbit. I'm worried he might get sick and maybe it's diseased. I'm also don't want him to kill it or worse, injure it, and then I have to make a decision, and I don't want to have to be put in that position. So I just thought I'm just shutting down the whole south side other than airing over there on a leash. No one's going over there. And so this is now Friday, and that was Saturday, and I still see movement when I go there, and I just kind of look around. I can see movement, and so I think it's the baby's still there. I don't think the mother came back. What should I do? Just wait.
Yeah.
Because I'm also worried too, like maybe the mother's never going to come back, and that baby's just out there and is just going to have this long suffering death, right? I mean, I don't know what to do, so.
Don't look.
Okay. Just
let
Mother Nature,
and
just tell myself the mother's coming back.
Yeah.
The mother's tending to the baby, and the baby's growing up, and
they're both going to leave, and
and the baby wears a little jacket and
steals from Mr. McGregor's garden.
It's horrible. It's horrible, but I just really don't want to get involved with this baby bunny, and I don't want Enzo. But I have to say, very interesting. It sort of like something in his brain was like it flipped a switch and something was released in his brain, and his whole demeanor changed from I'm a poodle that lounges around on a poofy bed to I'm a hunter and there's something that I'm going to hunt. His whole everything about him changed when he got a whiff of that rabbit.
Interesting.
Very interesting, yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, but you have construction, home improvement projects too.
Yeah,
what's going on with you?
You've probably been, you maybe wouldn't be able to, but I'm pretty sure that all of you out there have been hearing it. They're just finishing up now, but we have painting happening at the house. So the painter finally had the regulations loosened that he could come and actually do work at the house, because they weren't able to work for quite a long time. And now they're able to work. And so he comes to the house, and we've got the area where he's working is just him, and windows all open, and he's wearing a mask. And every time I go in the house, I'm wearing a mask, but I'm out in the trailer doing schoolwork now. And Betty's in her part of the house. And of course, Robert's doing stuff all over the place. But we're all wearing masks and sticking to our part of the property. And so he's doing a few touch-up things. There's a window that gets a whole lot of sun and started peeling, and it's not been painted very long, and so he's repairing that. There's those places, that Robert, where with all the electrical work, where Robert had to cut into the walls, and then he patched it with a billion screws.
Don't say that, Kelly.
I know, really. And let me tell people the time that Marsha and I talked about all of the screws that Robert uses in the repair and how close together they are and how many. It just so happened that he listened to that episode, and so he comes home and he's like a little bit pushed out of shape. You guys talk about me? You were talking bad about me on the podcast. Like, oh, you listen? He said, yeah, you shouldn't be talking bad about me on the podcast. So, anyway,
yeah, don't talk about the number of screws he uses.
Yeah, so those places are being patched. So he started the patching process on those. He's touching up windows, starting a patching process. The real thing that he's doing is painting the entryway, the side entry, not the main entry, but the side entry into the kitchen.
Oh,
he's painting that side entry.
That's never been painted, right?
Coat closets, right? Yeah, where the coat closets are. He's painting that, and then he's painting the breakfast room area. So, yeah. Okay. And then we had some new, I won't go into the long detail of the window project, but people who've been listening a while know we've had several windows put in and out. At a certain point, windows were put in but not painted because we weren't ready to paint. And then time kind of slipped away, and they're just primed, and they need to be painted so that they're protected from the weather on the outside. On the outside. Yeah. So, sanding and then vacuuming was happening at the beginning of the podcast, and now I see he's getting ready to drive away. So it should be more quiet. Okay. Now, although I am out in the trailer, so there's traffic noise for sure. But
I cannot hear anything, so I don't know.
Well, I can see it on GarageBand.
Oh, okay.
I can see it in the waveform, so okay. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some background noise that I won't be able to get rid of. But that's all right. It's our life.
It'll be nice to have your house back complete. It's never really 100% complete, but this wiring project has gone on for a very long time. It's been a huge project for Robert and you too, because you were helping him pull wires and whatnot, and then all this the painting.
And one of the things that's also going to happen in the painting is the painting of the woodwork, so the door in my studio. Okay. And that's the room where I took down I cleared it all out, and we took down all the shelving that had been put in the 50s. Right. So, and got the door fixed, repaired, and all that. So all those repairs happened, but the painting didn't happen. And so now that's going to be happening too. He'll be here for a while. Next episode, I'll probably have the same noise. Yeah. As this episode, but because there's a lot of little touch-up things, and then a lot of follow-up on things that have, are ready to have at least some of the painting done. So as long as he's here, we'll get him some work.
Well, I'm looking forward to having the deck project done so I can kind of get back to normal. And then as we've been sitting here talking, I thought the other thing I look forward to is having a day where I don't get so hot and sweaty. Like, I am hot and sweaty and dirty, filthy dirty every single day. And I actually come in and take like cold showers. I don't even use the hot water because I'm so hot, and I have air conditioning in the house, but still, like, some days I'm so hot. Just, working in the sun, and we tried putting up umbrellas, but still it's hot, and and it's not that hot in Seattle, but I don't, me, Kelly, I don't do well. I don't do well in the heat. So anyway, but any more home projects to talk about?
No, I'm ready to talk about knitting.
Let's talk knitting. Yeah. Let's talk knitting. So why don't you go first?
Okay. Well, right this minute, I'm sitting here in the trailer. I took for this semester's work, I took the bed of the trailer and converted it into the couch. Okay. So I'm all ready, and school has started, but my class has not started until next week. So I have it set up so there's a little couch in the back, and then the table in the front. And right now I am reclining on the couch in the back of the trailer, knitting on a pair of socks that I just cast on. A couple nights ago I cast them on. So these are socks made out of the yarn from Shaky K Fibers that that I spun. I think it might have been right before the summer spin-in that I spun it. Yeah. But kind of a warm-up to my spinning projects. And so it's a really nice 3-ply, and it's bright. It's really bright. It's the one I had thought I would make socks for Robert out of. And then he told me he wanted a different yarn. So I thought, okay, well, I'll make socks for myself out of it. So I'm making socks for myself. And they're really coming out nice. I love the way kind of fractal spun yarn, where I had the yarn the fiber was divided into 3 parts. And I spun one of the 3 parts pretty much just as it came, in the order, just long repeats. Except that Bailey had scrambled a little bit of it when she first arrived and was getting into stuff. And then the second ply, I divided it up and spun it more. I divided it lengthwise more, so the color repeats go faster. And then I forget what I did with the third ply. In any case, it's sort of a fractal spin, and I'm really liking the way it's knitting up. And I'm using the same stitch pattern that I used for those socks that I made for Robert. So it's basically a broken rib type stitch, but it also has slip stitches in it. So it's in Robert's socks. It turned out really poofy, and I'm hoping that it gives me a texture that I like better. I think it's going to be a nice combination of yarn and stitch pattern, unlike the other handspun socks that I made this year, where I wasn't really happy with them while I was working on them. So I'm enjoying them so far. This yarn is definitely thinner than the Baby Doll South Down yarn was, so that's helping to make this a better choice. So that's what I'm working on right this very, very minute. Okay. And I've got the cuff done, and I've started onto the leg of the sock. And then I also cast on a charity hat, and that is using the same pink and purple yarns that I used for the rats. And the one that had a unicorn horn, the raticorn. I used those 2 double. And I also gave the raticorn a mane. So it had a not just a unicorn horn, but a unicorn horn and a mane, a lot fluffy. So funny. Anyway, those were last episode. But I'm using that combination of yarns to make a charity hat. And it's just, ribbing, and then I think I'll probably do garter stitch instead of stockinette when I get past the ribbing, but I haven't gotten that far yet. And then I finished the knitting for the Dark and Stormy. My exciting. Targhee Lamb handspun sweater. Okay. So I still have to weave in ends, and I still have to put on the buttons. But all of the knitting is finished. And I love the fit of it.
Okay, I was going to ask you were happy with it. And you made it longer, right?
I did,
okay.
yeah.
How much longer did you make it? Because it's supposed to kind of hit like at the waist. Right?
Yeah, I think it said to go for my size 13.5 inches. And I measured and was going to go 15 inches. Mm-hmm. And then, you know how you're not quite to 15 inches, but another row will put you over. Mm-hmm. And so, or another 2 rows or whatever will put you over. So I did that. And that was a cable crossing. And the pattern said you take the cable part and that becomes 2x2 ribbing in the bottom band, the hem of the sweater.
Yeah.
And the rest of it's 1x1. And so the pattern said to just go ahead and start the ribbing, but it felt a little bit abrupt because I was right after a cable crossing. So I went a little bit further after the cable crossing. And so I think I ended, and then I did the ribbing. So I think by the time I put the ribbing on, I've got like 17 inches from the arm, from the armhole down. I think it's like 17 inches. And I'm short, so that's a good length.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did is I have these shirts from Duluth, long sleeve t-shirts that I wear. And they put a little extra length on them.
Right.
I tested it with one of those shirts, and the shirt does not hang out the bottom of the sweater. So that was really kind of, I don't think I had that in my plan, but it is a good thing, because then if I wear those shirts untucked and the sweater over the top, it's kind of nicer not to have your shirt hanging out the bottom of your sweater.
Right.
So, and I found buttons in my stash.
Which ones did you decide to use?
The bigger ones.
The bigger ones.
Okay. Yeah. The ones you said you thought were the best. I think the bigger ones will look better just because the scale of the sweater is big. I liked the smaller ones because they were sort of modeled, and I don't know if they were originally that color or if that's what happened to them over the years as they sat in the button stash. But I like the coloring of them because they're sort of modeled, but the bigger buttons look like they were better scale, and they have a little bit of detail. They're just, they're just plastic buttons, but they have a little bit of detail around the edges, and I think they're hexagon shape, not octagon, either octagon or hexagon. I don't have them with me, so
it's so interesting about picking buttons for a sweater. It's so kind of, I'm trying to think, it's like gut feeling kind of you go on. Like there's no real, I'm sure there is like a rule about, if your sweater's this long and your band's this wide, this is the size you should have, and patterns have a recommendation. But a lot of times it's like, it's a gut reaction. Like, how does that color look? And does the size feel right? To me, it always it's a very sort of organic, feely thing.
Yeah. And the button band is really wide on this sweater. So I thought, these will look better. They just look more balanced with the sweater. So, and I used the Isolde Teague tutorial for 1-row buttonholes. And I really, I had a hard time at first because I knit tightly and everything was a little bit too tight. And I couldn't seem to get the buttonholes to be big enough. But finally, I was more careful and I was able to do it. It was really good because something about putting buttons and buttonholes in a sweater just really like stops me in my tracks. Because first of all, where do you put them? Right. Where's the location of these buttonholes? And then are they going to be the right size to go over your buttons? And so with this 1-row buttonhole technique, I didn't have to go 2 whole rows of my collar band, which is significant, right? All the way up and around and down. Yeah. I would have had to go 2 whole rows of that before I could test to see if the buttonholes were the right size. Right. And so this way I could see right away if they were the right size. So that worked out really well. Yeah. not a link in the pattern, but a recommendation for that in the pattern. And so that's what I did. That was a successful sweater. I can't wait to get, I don't really want to weave in all the ends, but I can't really wait to get all the ends in and get the buttons actually sewn on so I can see it, in its fully finished form.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm gonna really get a lot of wear out of it.
Yeah. No, it's really pretty. The pictures that you posted are nice.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to get some better finished object pictures than the ones that I take in the mirror and send to you.
Yeah.
So, and that, for some reason, the brown of that fleece just will not capture in a photograph. The color is always off. Either it's too dark or it's too light. I cannot get that color to show up. But it was fun. I really enjoyed the sweater. It was difficult enough that I had to think about it, but not so difficult that I felt stumped.
Mm-hmm. Went really fast, too. Seems like you did that fast.
Size 7 needles with a not bulky, but like worsted to Aran weight yarn. Mm-hmm. So that was part of it. And then also I was just, those cable crossings, the cable repeat was fun. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of addictive. Like, okay, let me just get to the end of this cable repeat. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, now that I've gotten to the end of this cable repeat, I'm almost to the part where I do the decrease. So let's get to where I do the decrease. And then, there was always some milestone to help keep me moving. And it was really the only thing I was working on, except I took a break to do all those rats. I don't have very many projects on the go.
Yeah.
So I do have to get back to my Sunny Bono sweater.
Oh,
I have to get that jacket. I have to get back to that jacket.
Did you hear my reaction? Oh, God.
Yes.
Okay. Kelly?
Yes.
You have to finish that can you finish that before the next episode? School's starting. It may not be possible.
I can try.
You have to get that off the needles. It's been... No, wait a minute. Yeah. How long has it been? It's been February will be 2 years, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying this to shame you. Unfinished project, but
shaming.
Yeah, shaming. But it's because you got to get it done. You have to finish that. You're moving into fall. You got to sit in that trailer. It's gonna be cold out there. You need that sweater.
Yeah. No,
you have to be the cool faculty member wearing the Sunny Bono jacket.
I can wear the Sunny Bono jacket on my Zoom calls.
Yeah.
With my really short hair.
Yeah.
And my really furry jacket.
Yeah.
I will be.
But then I am not in any position to say
totally
anything.
Eccentric.
Because, I am not in the position to say anything because I have an unfinished Claire Garland rabbit. I have an unfinished woolly. What's the name of the company with the skull? That's not finished. Mm-hmm. So yes, I can't say anything.
Well, but I would like to get it done, and there's not that much left to do.
But I'm not knitting the skull. I'm knitting the teeth on 00 needles, and you're knitting it on
19.
I thought it was with 15.
Literally
19 needles.
Literally, I probably have fewer than 200 stitches.
Yeah.
Well, no, because I have to do the collar. I probably have fewer than 500 stitches.
Kelly, do you need some support around this? Would you like me to have a check-in with you?
Maybe so. Well, I will pledge that I will at least have worked on it by the next podcast.
Make it easy. Just pledge by the next episode you'll have it just pulled it out of the bag and looked at it.
No, I have to do more than that. I have to actually have worked on it.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's possible I could be done. Because truly, on size 19 needles, there's not that much left. I have a half a sleeve. I basically have a half a sleeve and then the collar. So.
Well, and I was thinking about my skull because remember last year I was going to have it done for Halloween.
Halloween, yeah. You were on a tear for a while.
I was on a tear, and then I was doing so good, and then the teeth. And I finished the teeth on, I can't remember, the bottom jaw, I think.
Yeah.
The jaw, not the bottom jaw, the jaw. There's only one jaw. And now I need to do the upper. But it was the teeth just took the wind out of my sails. So I should not be flinging you know what at you about the Sunny Bono jacket, since I haven't finished that skull, and October is just a moment away.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'll pledge to do some stitches on that jacket before the next podcast. Otherwise, it will be boring. All I'll have are these socks and a charity hat.
Mm-hmm.
How will that be for everybody to listen to? Not very exciting. So, okay.
Anything else? Any other projects?
No, that's it. Mm-hmm. And I haven't gotten any additional spinning done.
Okay.
I was thinking I might try, but it's not going to happen.
Okay.
Not with school starting, so.
Well, I too, oops, I just dropped my needle. As we're sitting here, I'm also knitting on socks. I'm still working on the Arna and Carlos socks. I'm doing the second one. And I was going to comment too, Kelly, you're talking about how your sweater that you just finished, that you can't get a really good picture of the color, a true picture of the color. These socks are interesting because the blue photographs as gray, and it's actually kind of like a muddy baby blue or a muddy robin's egg blue, and I think that muddiness to it makes it always photograph gray. In fact, even the label, the photograph, is gray, and I did not.
Oh, interesting!
And I did not know when I bought it's a ball of yarn. I did not know when I bought it that it was blue. I thought it was gray. And so I was surprised because I could just see the red. And when I started pulling it out and getting to the blue, I was like, where'd that come from? It shows gray on the label. Oh, so even the manufacturer had problems. So I'm knitting on that. And the reason I'm knitting on that is the other, my other project I've been working on is the cardigan Holey Comfort by Hinterm Stein. And I was going to knit on that as we recorded, but Knitty Barb had some, she's also knitting it and had some problems. And so I thought maybe I should not knit on that while I'm recording. I should do something that's really mindless because
a cautionary tale.
A cautionary tale. So I'm just going to talk about this. I really like this pattern. It is to get it started is a bit of a challenge. It kind of hurt my head for a little bit trying to, because what you do is you do a provisional cast. I talked about this in the last episode, but a provisional cast on for, I don't remember, it's the left or one of the shoulders. Then you do a provisional cast on, you do a provisional cast on for the back. Then you go and you pick up, after you've knit down to the bottom of the armhole, then you go back and you pick up from the provisional cast on for like the right side of the sweater, put that on hold, go back and do the same thing for the left side, and then you have to join the body. But you have to end on, so I should also say the sweater, the button band is knit at the same time that you knit the whole sweater. And it has a different patterning. And so when you join the fronts and the backs, you have to make sure the patterning that goes across the back of the sweater and this button band matches. And I followed the pattern exactly, and I counted the rows exactly, and I had always the same number of rows that she had, and the pattern doesn't match. I had to go and add, I believe I had to add more stitches to, well, now I can't remember if I did it to the front or back, but I had not more stitches, that's not correct. More rows. I had more rows to make the pattern match. So it took me a long time to figure that out. And the other thing that's now, so I have finished the fronts and the back, and I joined the body, and I've knit about 6 inches. And the other thing that's also, and this is not just this sweater, this happens in a lot of sweaters, is that it's kind of an A-line sweater. So you have increases on the front at a faster rate than you have increases on the back. So I joined the body when I was down at the beach, and I didn't have any graph paper with me, which is usually what I use to make notes about what I'm supposed to, like a chart kind of where my increases or decreases are supposed to be. I didn't have any, so I had to create my own. And then the increases in the front happen every 6th row, and the increases on the back happen every 20th row. So
when you say, I have a question, because you say join the body, it's a cardigan. So what are you joining? Like under the armhole?
So you knit the back of it down to the armhole, the bottom of the armhole. Then you knit the pickup stitches and knit the right front, pickup stitches and knit the left front down, to the armhole. And then join the fronts to the back.
Okay, on the sides.
On the sides, right. Okay. And so then you have this patterning on the there's no buttons on it, but the band on the front. It's a very cool pattern.
Yeah, okay. I think you're probably going to like the fit because of the difference in the increases in the front and the back too.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to look very much like another sweater that was very popular on Ravelry was that vitamin D. Where you had all those increases in the front, so you had this sort of your front was sort of ripply kind of, I don't think it's going to be quite to that extreme. But the idea is it's kind of A-line, and then you have a little bit more fullness in the front, so it's a bit flowy, and she says it covers sort of rolly bits too.
They say that in the pattern, rolly bits.
Well, that's not what she says, but she
does say something clever. I remember you talking about it. She does say something clever. Yeah.
So I know Nitty Barb from Two Knitlit Chicks is also making it. So I'm interested to see how she's doing. She contacted me and said that she's making the same sweater. So I think it's a great pattern so far. Really fun to knit on, and I love the yarn. The yarn is Elemental Effects Cormo. It's very round and plump and springy. And I think when I block this, I'm not going to block it very aggressively. I think I'm just going to let it be springy.
Let it be springy. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. The other thing I've been spinning, I almost remember I was talking about the cotton that I was spinning. And I have discovered, Kelly, that you are right, that there is a definite end that you need to spin from. And do you remember we were talking about that cotton has a definite direction.
Like a nap, It's very directional.
So what I've discovered is that as the way the roving is rolled, so as it's coming off, that's not the way I want to spin it. I need to break it off and turn it around and spin it that way.
Okay.
So I have a little ball left of maybe 3 inches in diameter that I need to spin. So I'm hoping to finish that tonight. And then I need to ply it. And so I wanted to ask you a question about, because I've not spun cotton before and I've not plied cotton. So I actually say too, the last time we talked about this when we recorded, I said I really was not enjoying the cotton. I'm liking it a lot better now that I've spun a lot more of it. It actually is kind of nice, and I'm working really hard to keep it, like hold the baby bird in one hand, in my left hand, and the glass of wine in my right hand.
Hold the baby bunny.
Yeah, the baby bunny in my left hand, and the glass of wine in my right hand. And it's not super easy to do that. I still am not at the point where I have a lot of control. I still sometimes have to set down the glass of wine and use my right hand and get the lumps out. But I'm getting much better.
And some of it has to do with the fiber. Like you might run into a stretch of the fiber where you really are going to need that second hand to help you.
Sometimes like some clumps just kind of come off, even though I'm pre-drafting it. So I wanted to ask you now about plying cotton. 2-ply, 3-ply. I would do 2-ply.
Okay. I don't think I've ever made. I can't say for sure. I might have made a 3-ply cotton, but recently I have not made a 3-ply cotton yarn. But I would say 2-ply. And the reason I would say that is it's kind of tricky to ply, to manage your singles, partly because you're going to have some areas, because cotton needs a lot of twist. You're going to have some areas that are not twisted enough, and they're going to draft apart.
Okay.
They're going to want to draft apart, and you're going to have your singles break. And then you're going to have some areas where you have too much twist in there. And if you have too much twist in there, it gets brittle and your singles can break.
Okay.
Or if they don't break, they'll just want to be like twisting back on themselves.
Right.
So there's more management in plying cotton, especially when you're new. You know, when you have a tendency to have places in your yarn that aren't spun quite the way they should be. So that's why I would say 2.
And so what I was going to do is just on the ball winder, wind it into a cake and then pull from the center and the outside. Is that what I should do?
I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
No, I would not do that.
Okay.
I would ply it from the bobbins.
So I have it all. It's ending up all in one bobbin.
Oh, on one bobbin.
I should now split that bobbin. I should just. Well, I can't spin it, but I should just move it on to another bobbin.
Yeah, I mean, you could just run it back through your wheel with a pretty good take up, and
right.
I mean, it probably won't hurt to add in a tiny bit of twist more on one of them.
Because regarding the twist, I remember in the last episode I was telling you that if I put it on the smaller whirl, I had to cut the drive band and retie it, and I didn't want to do that. So I've just been like, I just stop and just hold it and just treadle a bunch and get more twist into it. Yeah, is what I've been doing.
Yeah, so I would, for this first time, I would say that taking half of it and just running it back through your wheel with pretty high take up.
Okay.
So there's, some spinning is happening, some additional spinning is happening, but it's going onto the bobbin fast enough that there's not a lot of additional spinning happening.
Okay.
And then get 2 bobbins. That's what I would do.
Okay. I'll do that then.
That's probably the easiest way to do it. Because if you wind it into a center pull ball, you know how cotton is and linen are when you knit with them?
Yeah.
From a cake?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you're going to have to be managing both ends of that with your fingers. I think that's a recipe for disaster.
Sometimes I struggle with the wool, and wool is not cotton, so okay.
And I'm not saying it can't be done, because I have done it. Mm-hmm. But especially not with it being new to you. The first time plying, I would not suggest it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So with the really fine singles, when because cotton can get really fine, those really fine singles can also get tangled in the ball, like stick to each other. Even though cotton doesn't felt like wool, they can get kind of stuck together.
Yeah.
And so I would not do it that way. I would put it on 2 bobbins and ply it from the 2 bobbins.
Okay. And
then if it breaks, if one of your singles breaks, then I just take, I just overlap it and then spin, and you have a little tail hanging out. And then you can deal with that tail when you knit with it. You could wait and deal with it when you knit with it. Or you can deal with it when you wind it on the nitty knotty, or,
Yeah.
You don't have to even really worry about dealing with it along the way.
And sometimes I've been, when you're, when you have to, you have another little section you break off and you start adding it, and it doesn't always, I would just, I don't know if this is right or not, but I would just kind of lick my fingers and not wet it, but just kind of like calm it down a little bit to get all the fibers just to, like slicking back a child's hair, with your mother used to lick their fingers and smooth back your hair.
Yeah, exactly like that. It's not like the felting that happens with wool, but it does kind of get everything closer together, so then the twist can grab it all.
Yeah. I'm just going to say I am enjoying the cotton more than I was 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Not my favorite.
Yeah.
It's more work. It's not as meditative as the wool. But that doesn't mean it's bad. It's just different.
Well, and that doesn't mean it would be like that forever. Mm-hmm. Because I find it very meditative to spin cotton.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot more experience.
Yeah. So anyway, but my goal is to finish it by the 7th of September. And
good.
And we'll talk about that in a minute. But I have because we have our summer spin in, but we'll talk about that in just a second. But my last thing, I just was going to mention it. And a shout out to String Theory Yarn and Fibers in Seabrook, because I mentioned earlier that last week we went down to Seabrook, Washington, on the Washington coast. We've been down there before. Kelly, you know it, and actually you were supposed to be with us. You were supposed to come with us, and actually we had this house booked for, I believe wasn't it the end of June, middle of June, I think. Mm-hmm. And a little thing called a pandemic happened, and so we were still able to go, but you were not able to join us, and we moved it back to August. And so my brother and Kim, who's living with me right now, we all went down for a week, and we had a great time. I don't know how much fun Kim had. No, she had a great time, but she has started a new job. And so I think that was her 5th week on the job. And of course, she's working from home. And so she just brought everything down to the beach. And in her, the house that we rented, it has a 3rd floor. And there's bunk beds and a media area, kind of like there's a TV and stuff. And so she used that area as her office. And so she worked Monday through Thursday, I think, and then she had Friday off. But anyway, we did a little shopping. We went into String Theory Yarns, and I bought, you remember when we were there last year for the meetup, I bought a skein of, it's a local dyer called Little Fish Stitches. And you bought...
Oh, I bought some of that too, yeah.
And so Jean, who owns the shop, had commissioned 2 colorways for Seabrook, and one was I think it's just called Sunset, I think, and that's what you bought. And then it's all like if you think of a sunset,
purples, right? And oranges, and
right. And I bought the colorway called Mocrocks Beach, because that's actually the name, the Native American name for the beach. It's not Seabrook, it's Mocrocks Beach, and so there's a colorway for that, and it's I can grab it and tell you. Like a bright blue and a navy blue and a black and kind of a gray and a little bit of a natural cream color in there. Really nice. It looks like the ocean, really.
Okay.
And so I had bought a skein last year. And so because Kim and I were together, and she was knitting on a sweater that she was getting a little tired of knitting on, and so she wanted something different. So she bought a skein of the little fish stitches in another colorway. It's so hard to say. In a different colorway to make that the shawl. It's called like hitchhiker shawl, I think. Mm-hmm. Because she wanted something kind of easy and mindless. But she said she loved the yarn so much that she wanted to buy some more. And there was a sweater that she'd been thinking of making, and it turns out we both had favorited the same sweater, and it's called Walk Along by, and I always thought this was Ankestrick. It's Ankestrick. It's Ankestrick. Anyway, it's a t-shirt that, and so it uses fingering weight wool. So what I ended up doing is buying 2 more skeins of the same colorway to make this sweater. But what I wanted to ask you, Kelly, what are your thoughts? It's hand-dyed yarn, so what, what I want to do is alternate the skeins. Mm-hmm. If I had 2 skeins, it would make sense how I would alternate. I have 3 skeins. Should I, when I wind those 3 skeins into balls, should I break the skeins? So say I have skeins 1, 2, and 3. should I do skeins 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B? And then I would just...
And then alternate all the A's and then move to the B's and then move to the C's.
What would you do?
That makes a lot of sense. What did I do with the one that I had? I think what I did was I alternated skeins with the first two, and then one of them. I think what I did was I took one of the skeins and split it in half. Mm-hmm. And then I alternated that half with one of the full skeins. And then when the half... Oh, you know what? That doesn't make any sense. That isn't what I did.
Do you remember what sweater it was? What project
I think it was I want to say it was the Summer Fjord, but I had two skeins of that. But I think I split it into three because of this. No, I was going to say because of the sleeves, but it doesn't really have sleeves, so that doesn't make sense either. I know which sweater it was. It was the one by Heidi Marie Kaiser. I can't remember the name of it now, but the gray one out of the Dance Rustic Silk. The gray and brown.
Right, yeah.
I had 3 skeins.
Mm-hmm. With hand-dyed yarn, if you don't alternate skein, it's going to make a difference. You know, the sleeves are going to look different than the body because they're smaller tubes.
I think that's what I did. I alternated skeins. And then when I got to the place where I was like, oh, shoot, I'm going to have to do something about these sleeves. Mm-hmm. So when I got to the end of the sleeves where I would, put the stitches on holders, mm-hmm. I took that yarn and one of those 2 skeins of yarn, I took and set it aside to use for the sleeves, so that the sleeves would have 1 skein that was consistent with where they left off. So what that meant was then I needed to add the...
What?
Okay, let me see if I can explain it a little bit.
Just so you know,
better.
I finished my beer, so maybe that's part of the reason why I'm having a hard time understanding.
I'm scrolling and looking for the sweater at the same time that I'm talking, so that might also cause the problem. Let me just not multitask.
Okay,
so,
let me go to Ravelry right now and look.
So I don't remember the name of the sweater, so I can't find it. But
I know what it looks like. So
yeah. So anyway, I knit down, alternating 2 skeins. I knit down to the part where you put the sleeves on waste yarn. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, oh no, I need to have some of this yarn that I just ended up with, right? The yarn I'm using now, I need to set aside so that when I come back to the sleeves, I'm not coming back to the sleeves with something totally different.
Right.
So I cut that, one of the balls of yarn that I was alternating, mm-hmm. I cut it off and set that aside. So then I had to use my 3rd skein to alternate with the one that was left, right? Because I had been alternating 2 balls. I took one of the balls, cut it off, and put it away. So then I had to cake up the other one so that then I had 2 balls to alternate with again.
Okay.
And then of course, one of them ran out before the other one, and then I went back and did the sleeves, and then with what was left after the sleeves, I went back and finished. I did the sleeves before I used the yarn.
Okay, is this Havana? Is this the Havana silk
yes.
tea?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what do you say here, Kelly?
I don't know. Did I that? Well, that's the big question. Did I even describe my process?
Okay, you said I started out alternating skeins, but then I looked again at my skeins and I realized they're all slightly different in depth of shade. Plus, I remembered someone saying, "No one ever regretted alternating skeins. Many people have regretted not alternating skeins."
Oh, so that's all I say.
That's all you say.
I don't describe it, yeah.
And then you just before that you talk about your increases and whatnot.
Yeah, so I was let's say you have skeins A and B. Uh-huh. I alternated A and B till I put the sleeves on waste yarn. And then I took B and set it aside. so that I could pick it back up to do the sleeves. And then I continued working down the body with skein A that was still attached. And now I cracked into skein C. And I alternated skeins A and C for the rest of the way down the body.
Okay.
And then skein A ran out before skein C did, right? Because I had started with it sooner. And when that happened, I put everything on pause, went back to my set aside yarn and did the sleeves so they would match. And then finished up. I had a lot of yarn left over for that, so it wasn't like I was, trying to skimp on yarn. But I did the sleeves with that one that was left. I don't think I alternated on the sleeves. I think I just, because they're short sleeves, there wasn't that much more to do. But I just wanted to make sure it was consistent,
right,
with the yarn I left off with.
Because that's what I with the the 2 combo spin sweaters that I made, I did not alternate skeins on the body, but I found I needed to alternate skeins on the sleeves because, as I said earlier, like the tubes are smaller.
Yeah.
So, well, I was going to say
this is a tee also that you're making, right? So it's not. So it's the sleeves are short.
And and I may make them I think I might make them the pattern. You can either make short sleeves or long sleeves. I was thinking of making like 3/4 length sleeves is what I was actually thinking of making, but and I have some time because I'm not going to cast it on today. And I would say if our listeners have some suggestions too, how you alternate if you have 3 balls of yarn and you only want to manage 2 at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing I could do is I could alternate 3.
Yeah, don't do that.
But I don't want to do that.
Yeah, don't do that. But I think your original plan is fine too. But just keep in mind you're going to want to set aside something. You're going to want to set aside something at the point that what kind of sleeves are they? They're raglan.
Oh, raglan. Yeah, they're not set. Yeah, they're raglan.
Yeah, they're raglan sleeves. I would just say at the point where you put the sleeves on waste yarn, set aside yarn. At that point, I would set aside some yarn. Oh, I see,
because you're saying when you start again, it's never going to match that.
Right. You want it to be one of the yarns that you left off with.
Okay.
You want to have that set aside so that at least that will provide some consistency in the sleeve.
Oh, I get it.
Like if you were going to alternate in the sleeves, I mean, depending on your yarn, you might want to do that. If you're going to alternate in the sleeves, at least one of the 2 that you were alternating would be consistent with where you left off.
Right.
So,
and it wouldn't even necessarily have to be the whole sleeve, right? It's just...
Right, just to get started.
The first inch or so, right?
Yeah.
I get it. Just so you know, I'm waving my arms around in there, like the first inch or so. Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a cute sweater, and it's nice and long.
And so if you look at that, it has. So the main sweater is the the hand painted yarn. And then there's like a contrasting edging around the neck and the sleeves. And then it has that extra sort of,
so it's like 2 layers.
Yes,
it's like a second layer coming out from underneath the first layer.
Which is in the same contrasting color. So it looks like you're wearing a sweater over a sweater.
Yeah.
And I've decided I'm not going to do that. I think what I'm going to do around the bottom is I'm just going to put the contrasting yarn the same way it's added around the neck and the sleeves.
Okay.
I think because I like the length the way it is.
Yeah.
I think that putting that extra length, I don't want it that long is the first thing, and I also think I don't want to have that contrasting color right around my hip.
A wide band,
Yeah.
A wide horizontal band around the hip.
But it's cute because it has, where the raglans are, the increases for the raglan sleeve. It's instead of just being maybe like 1 stitch or 2 stitches between the increases, it looks like I've not read the pattern.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like it's about 10 or 12 stitches. So it has
it's a nice wide raglan band.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah. So, anyway.
That is cute.
But anyway, we went on and on about my projects, but that's it. But Kelly, before I mentioned about my spinning, I wanted to mention the summer spin-in.
Yes, because it's almost over.
It's almost over, so we're recording on Friday the 5th.
4th?
The 5th?
4th.
The 4th?
I have my calendar on.
Yes, you're right. It's the 4th.
It's the 4th.
Anyway, the spin-in ends on Monday, which is, in the United States, that's Labor Day, which is sort of the unofficial, or the official end, I guess, of summer. Everybody goes back to school. So that's September 7th, Monday. And so the next episode, we will announce the winners. And we're going to have bags from 3 Green Sisters. And Kelly, we talked last episode about our bags that we got. And I have to tell you, I use mine to go to the beach. There's a problem with it. It's so big. You can put so much stuff in there. You can practice almost not lift it. It's so big. So I love the bag. I love this bag. I really, really like it. I love the fabric. I love everything about it. But it's massive. And you can put a lot of stuff in that bag. So,
well, I like
great.
mine. I've been using it. Well, it's got my knitting in it, but I've also been using it to grab my stuff to come out to the trailer in the mornings.
But Kelly, we should just mention that. So there'll be a chance to win. They're gonna donate bags. So the winner of, we have 2 winners, right, from the for the handspun and then knitting with handspun. But also, if you just want to go buy a bag right now, you can just go to their Etsy shop and put in the coupon code 2Use, all capitalized, and get a 15% savings.
Yeah.
So,
and we have links to their Etsy shop in the show notes, so you can just click through if you wanted to just look at your show notes on the, while you're listening, or if you want to know what the URL is, it's etsy.com/shop/3 Green Sisters, and it's the number 3. So, but yeah, they are really cute bags in their shop. So, and I'm really excited to be able to give a couple of these bags away to our listeners. And if you do go and buy a bag from 3 Green Sisters, post a picture of it. We'd love to see it on the episode thread. So, yeah, I really like mine. Yeah.
And then the other, just a little bit of housekeeping, Kelly, we should just mention the shop. That we had quite a long discussion in the last episode about the Icelandic colorways and how they were named. But if people are interested, there's still yarn at the shop. Don't wait.
Hurry. We have our new, in addition to the fingering weight that we had before of the Replenish Rambouillet, we have Sport and an Aran weight. And then we also have natural color gray Romney that was mill spun at Valley Oak Wool Mill, and a natural color white Corriedale Rommeldale cross. And both of those are pretty bulky yarns. They're nice tight ply twists, so they'll be durable. The Corriedale Rommeldale is soft, not like the Rambouillet, not like a merino, but it's probably what most people would think of as a medium wool. And then the Romney is definitely not a close to skin. It's an outerwear. I would say it's an outerwear layer for most people. Yeah. So, but those are really nice yarns too in the shop. So, all right.
So, do we have anything else to talk about?
No, and we said we were going to be done fast, and it's over an hour.
Oh yes, well. This always happens, Kelly, when we say
I know.
It's going to be a really quick episode. We don't have that much to talk about. And then
we never have that much to talk about, Marsha, but we always find things.
Yes, we always...
yeah.
Well, as I recall, once you said that we had talked on this is in the days before cell phones, and we would have you'd pay for a long distance, and we talked for like an hour, and then Robert would say, "What'd you talk about?" And you're like, "I don't know."
Yeah. Oh, nothing.
Nothing. He's like, "But you talked for an hour."
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay. Well, I'll let you go, and good luck with the painters. Exciting.
Thank you. And I will have something done on the Sunny Bono jacket next time. I'm making a pledge.
All this project shaming. I do apologize for the project shaming.
Hey, it worked. I forget what. Oh, I know what it was. It was my Marianne's tea, where I finally was just, okay, I'm just pledging to have this done because I was so sick of having to talk about it every time. So doing the same thing about the Sunny Bono jacket, and maybe that will be helpful to me. So
well, and maybe I'll shame myself into tackling teeth on the skull.
Right. At least one tooth.
Yeah, at least one tooth. Yeah, between now and the next episode. Alrighty.
Okay,
we'll talk.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2 U's
doing our part for World Fleece.